That movie really got it wrong. You can absolutely eat 2 pastel de nata in one sitting and feel great. I saw Poor Things when it was in theaters and I absolutely loved it. I loved the production design, particularly the costumes by Holly Waddington. And this past January, I was lucky enough to see an exhibit of some of these costumes at the Barbican in London. And it was so cool. It was amazing to see these pieces up close, to see how they were sewn and structured. It was like going to an art museum and getting up close to a painting to see the brushstrokes. So I really wanted to make something from these costumes, but I didn't want it to be cosplay and I wanted it to be something I would realistically wear in public. So I kind of zeroed in on these shorts that Bella wears. They're her undergarment, but she wears them as outerwear when she visits Lisbon, Portugal. And I actually think they're pretty wearable. Like I would wear it with a tank top myself. Coincidentally, I'm going to Lisbon for my husband's art exhibition. So at the end of this video, you will get to see me wear these shorts in one of the locations that inspired the film, because they didn't actually film it there, it's a soundstage. I'm going to make my shorts pattern from a trouser pattern that I actually made for my wedding. There's a couple of reasons for this. One is that there's no waistband on this pattern, so I can make one the exact shape I need by closing the waist darts. The other reason is that these are wide leg trousers, so the sides will flow away from the hips in the way that I'm after. You could hack a commercial pattern for this project. I would just look for something high-waisted with no waistband. I'm going to start by tracing the pattern without the seam allowance, down to about a 4-inch inseam. Next, I'm cutting the pattern out, including the darts. I don't want any darts in my shorts pattern, so I'm going to eliminate them with the slash and spread method. Draw a line straight up to the tip of each dart and cut along it right before you hit the dart tip. There should be a tiny bit of paper holding the pieces together. Close each dart and tape them shut. This will create fullness at the hem while still maintaining fit around the waist. Now I'm drawing in a waistband. Bella's shorts have a waistband that's V-shaped at the front and then tapers towards the back. I'm just kind of eyeballing it here and drawing a shape that I think looks good. Cut along the line you drew to separate the waistband. I'm doing the same thing with the back trouser pattern. Don't forget to label your patterns as you go. Now it's time to shape the shorts themselves. I'm going to start with the back leg because right now they have more fullness than the front, and I'd like to make the front match them a little better. I'm transferring the shape as it is, transferring any notches and the grain line. Bella's shorts kind of dip at the center and then flow up and out at the sides, so I'm keeping that in mind as I shape. This might end up being too dramatic of a curve, but I'm going to be making a mock-up before I cut the final fabric anyway. I just need to add the seam allowance now. I'm doing an invisible zipper at the side seam, so I don't need to make any special closure additions to the pattern. I'm measuring the fullness along the back leg opening because I want to adjust the front leg to have a similar amount of fullness. All I have to do is cut the slash marks up to the top edge, tape down one of the pieces, and then evenly spread the other two along a ruler until I get close to the width of the back leg. Before I trace this, I'm walking the side seam of the back leg along this side seam to make sure the measurement is the same and they'll match up when they're sewn together. I'm going for an elegant curve here, but it's hard to know if it will look right until I see it on myself. I'm finishing up the waistband by adding seam allowance, leaving the center without because the pattern will be cut on the fold of the fabric. Before cutting into my final fabric, I'm cutting and sewing a test of my pattern in a lightweight muslin. Okay, so these are pretty good. The back dips down a little too much, so I might straighten out that curve a bit. They have more fullness at the hem than Bella's, but I don't mind because Emma Stone has much smaller hips than I do, and this is a more flattering shape on me. Because I got to see these shorts up close, I could see that they were made of a fine crepe fabric, probably silk. So I bought a deadstock silk acetate crepe de chine in a periwinkle blue color, because I don't wear banana cream yellow typically, but I thought this blue was still evocative of the film. If you've seen my sewing videos before, you know I use really professional pattern weights like skull shot glasses or occasionally cat's paws. When you're working with thin, slippery fabric like this, you definitely don't want to pin your patterns to it because it's so easy to jostle the grain out of alignment. I got a rolled hem foot for Christmas, and this is my first time trying it out. My plan is to use it to finish the short hems, so I definitely want to test it first. I watched a video on how to get it started in the machine, but I didn't really understand it, so I'm just inserting it my own way. I can see this is going to take a lot of practice to get right. The main challenge is folding the fabric the perfect amount, because if it's too wide it won't roll properly, and if it's too narrow it will slip off the channel of the foot. My second test looks okay in spots, so I'm thinking I'm going to attempt this on my actual hem. Okay, so the beginning is horrendous, then it gets okay for a second, then it's horrendous again, and then it gets okay again. I'll have to unpick the stitches on the bad parts and try to fix those. Okay, so this is my last hem on the fourth and last pattern piece, and I finally got the hang of it. It looks pretty good, and pretty good is good enough for me at this point. When you're sewing shorts or trousers, you need to match each front with its corresponding back and sew side seams and inseams together. I'm leaving one side seam open because that's where I'll install the zipper. I'm finishing the raw edges with mock French seams, which just involves folding in the raw edges into a sandwich and then stitching them together along the fold. With the fronts and backs attached to each other, you just need to insert one leg into the other, making sure the fabric is right side to right side and matching up the crotch seam. For the waistband, I have 2 fronts and 2 backs. I'm sewing one front to one back on one side seam for each pair. These sewn pieces should mirror each other because you'll end up sandwiching them to hide the raw edge of your shorts waist. Here I'm attaching the tops of the 2 waistbands with right sides together. Since my zipper will be sewn into the waistband as well, I need to attach one half of the sandwich to the top of the shorts. This should be the side of the waistband sandwich that will face the front, as the inside will be hand stitched down later. When you're sewing a corner or a V shape, stop stitching at the tip of the V and drop your needle. Clip into the piece you're sewing the V into, getting close to the needle to release the tension. Then you should be able to pivot and finish the seam. Before sewing an invisible zipper, you need to iron the teeth fold open a bit with a low iron. Lay your zipper face down facing the outside of your seam with the tape edge along the fabric edge. Mine is 1/8 of an inch away, so the stitch line will match the rest of my 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'm using an invisible zipper foot, which makes this much easier. Now the zipper is pretty stiff and it's thicker than my fabric, so to get a smooth seam, I'm using tearaway stabilizer on the back, and I've basted the zipper down rather than pin it. You could also use iron-on interfacing to prevent your fabric from puckering. With one side sewn, I'm marking on the zipper tape where the waistband seam and side notches are so that I can match the other side up with them. Remember that your zipper should be face down onto the outside of the fabric with the zipper tape edge along the raw seam edge. Now I'm just going to close up the bottom of the seam under the zipper. I'm pressing in the seam allowance on the other side of the waistband so I can fold it down and hand stitch it to the inside of the shorts. The last step is to sew on a hook and eye clasp above the zipper. I made it to Lisbon! The shorts made it to Lisbon, and they're only a little wrinkled. I'm really happy with the silhouette of these. I'd like to try this pattern in a more casual fabric like viscose or even a cotton knit. Let me know in the comments, what did you think of the costumes and poor things, and which piece would you want to sew for yourself? As always, keep in touch and happy sewing!